What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll talk about the Bitcoin price chart along with the XRP price chart, which has just been humming along as we've all just been kind of waiting for this market to build out a base and a bottom in here, as we are starting to see some strength turn in here ever since early January, that it's been stuck on things like SWE in here, which we've covered in past videos, and in markets in the morning, waiting for a wave 5 to kick in. Some of the struggles about the current environment we're in, of course, is just that we've really been ranging, especially on things like XRP, for nearly 4 months in here. And of course, after 4 months, everybody gets pretty beat up. And in general, XRP has been one of the strongest coins in the market. But even then, just going sideways, we always joke about it. There's team up, there's team down, but there's nobody on team sideways. And if you go on Twitter, it's pretty much, half the crowd chanting for up and half the crowd chanting for down, and absolutely nobody cheering for sideways. And what do we get? We get sideways. And so right now, of course, we're just waiting for price action to emerge over here on Bitcoin. It's still just one of those meandering patience games in here. Of course, we've seen strength emerge in here, especially when we shift over there. We can see that there was a bullish divergence on that lower low that was set in there, that the strength built up in that one. Notice even down here on the MACD how there's a total difference happening in here in the MACD after this low was put in versus this bounce happening in here, or versus this bounce happening over in here, how there just wasn't really any strength returning back in, but the selling just kept going and going. But look, we certainly have seen a change happen in here in the market in regards to strength indicators. You can see how the stochastic really just never could get much juice to get back up to 100, and boom, there we go, we're back up in here at 100. But ever since the peak in there, it's just been, unable to really get any juice to get its way out of there. And of course, now the bullish divergence, MACD returning, we're all just kind of playing the patience game, waiting right now, and everybody's just twiddling their thumbs. XRP holders twiddling their thumbs, altcoin holders twiddling their thumbs, all just kind of waiting on it to do something. And I'm in the same boat. I'm just like, gosh, what are we talking about? I think I'm kind of like beating it like a dead horse when it comes to things like Cardano. Like, we've already seen these ABC corrections show up in here. Now it's just kind of this grinding, boring time to see what happens when we finally make our way back to the retracements, and if we have enough juice to be able to break out of there. Just kind of hoping that we'd be able to see something like that happen this week, but we just continue to meander on. If you caught yesterday's markets in the morning, well, of course, one of the things we've talked about many times has just been what it's like to break from a range, and we've dissected what could happen when these range breakouts happen in here, like we saw back in 2017. And it's very common to have the push and then the violent back test, and then we go through all of this chop throughout here. And the idea has been that that's what's going on in here, that you've gotten that break happen in there. It's been a violent back test. Now you're just in chop happening. And I've shown several examples of this as well, of just how you do these things on top of these previous highs, which we could see over here on the XRP market cap. I've used the example as well of Ethereum, that you just kind of go through these chops. I've often describe them as like double taps on top of the all-time high. But going back to the idea of talking about markets in the morning yesterday, I brought up another example of when XRP really did this whole thing as well, that we keep referencing to every time I show you guys these series of 4 charts in here, and how it's just common structural behavior to happen on a chart. And it's even just common structural behavior to happen over here on XRP. So like contextually, even these two environments happening in here, what do we see happening? We see an A, B, C correction back in 2017. Here in 2021 through 2022, you have an A, B, C correction, prolonged accumulation, a breakout from the high, a breakout from the high. And then we start doing all this choppy stuff, right? But XRP even did this on smaller time frames on other ranges that it's had in the past. And this is going to go for the people who were here during the 22.5 cent time period. It's a very special crowd to me because we've been together for a very long time, but this is back in September of 2020. It was about 4.5 years ago, right? Price corrected and then ranged for a long time. Eventually broke from the range, and then what happened all throughout here, and zooming in on that, it's all the same stuff again. All this same behavior where price breaks to the new high, and then it slams back down, and then it goes rangy to then eventually what? Eventually 4.236 extension, right? Which is what we keep talking about, right? And that's why that discussion of $8, $9, $10 keeps coming into play, because that's where this lands at for the market cap of XRP. So zooming in on those ranges, right? Selling climax, automatic rally, secondary test, right? Selling climax, automatic rally, secondary test, right? Flushes the low, flushes the low. Now the question is, does the Trump pump and the keep talking about this too. Like I brought it up in Markets in the Morning. Somebody had a discussion about it on whether or not you ignore it or not. It's so difficult with that particular candle, right? Would it have never existed and instead been more of a structured move, right, to move its way back up and eventually get there? And then we would have eventually seen these things happen in here, which then brings you in to today's pricing, which would essentially place you somewhere around right here on a developed range. Again, very difficult because of this Trump pump thing, but the concepts are all the same, right? Here's your range and then your big breakout, your range, your breakout, your violent back test, your violent back test, then all the ranging behavior comes in. And so nobody's in agreement over there on Twitter or X on which way this thing is going to break, if this thing's going to break to the upside or if it's going to break to the downside. I keep reiterating, I have yet to see circumstances where these things don't take off. If this thing broke down here and went down to like $1.20, which I see all over Twitter, I see $1. I see 90 cents. It would be so uncommon to see that of a crash, retrace, reaccumulation, breakout, and for all this price behavior to happen in here and then it break down. I haven't seen it before. If there's an example of it, I'm more than willing to look at it, but I just haven't seen one. And I spent a lot of time in these charts. But even in here, we just have all the different phases of what ends up happening in these things before they ramp up, build their bases, and then eventually they go for the next leg. That's also why I just showed you examples of even XRP's price behavior of how it reacts, even on small time frame ranges like these, or even these, that when these things happen, they're typically the first consolidation, the first profit taking that ends up happening before the next leg eventually ends up coming. That's the context I'm using when I look at the chart. When people want to talk about $1 or $1.20, that's fine. I mean, let's look at it. There's a big, huge gap right down here, right? That's just what people would naturally think, that we're going to go back and fill those gaps. But after this long of prolonged consolidation and accumulation at the lows, I just don't think we're in that. I think we're just in the halfway point of the whole bull run happening here for XRP. And this is the common place where you stop at, as price will continue to shoot up without ever coming back to those levels again until things are all said and done. Then the real probability of us heading back down there does become present. And even in this example right in here, price does come all the way back down in here, but it didn't happen from right here. We still had to keep going. And then that's when things came to a conclusion after that. And so at 4 months into this and being stuck like right in the middle of the range, it's hard as a content creator to come up with something, anything profound to say in being like, yes, we are absolutely breaking out this moment, right? Like I obviously spend hours a day in here thinking, are we at the point where we could? And like, even in like the best case that I could give, it would be kind of like, we're progressed in here, which would still mean there's like a couple weeks of, like I described it earlier this week, of being like climbing the wall of worry. Climb the wall of worry. Half the people on Twitter are screaming down, half the people are screaming up, and we just continue climbing the wall of worry. But in the end, it just becomes one big V bottom. But there's definitely nothing structurally even in this thing, which is such a small time frame. There's only like 2 days worth of price action happening in here, that it also does the same things that when we're looking at these bigger time frames, which my chart just got messed up a little bit in there, but when we're looking at these bigger time frames talking about these things, right, that they're so common of how they end up happening in here. And then just sheer violence comes after that, followed by prolonged ranging. And so in a ranging context, it's pretty difficult to come up with anything profound to say outside of, I think the range is going to eventually lead to the upside. It seems like we've made a lot of progress throughout the range. And when we produce these types of ranges, whether on these bigger time frames like so, or in here, they tend to break to the upside. And even if we're not just using these contexts in here of it ABCing and breaking the range, ABCing, breaking the range, and then having its first consolidation, well, we could even move out to the bigger context picture of the last 8 years of this range to say, even in that context, that these things eventually end up going. And that even if we're not looking at Ethereum or XRP charts, and just use Bitcoin as an example, that crash, retrace, reaccumulations do not tend to get back to the high and then fail. They tend to continue going and they have additional pushes. And so in general, that's where I believe that we are right now. However, it's just how do we come up with something new to say while we're 4 months into a range that just kind of continuously bounces back and forth in the range, trying to identify where are we in it? How much more time is there? Getting harder and harder to say something new that you haven't heard 100 times. But I also don't want to fade off and make it seem like I don't think that's going to happen. I do think that's going to happen, but how do I say that in a different way? I don't think I can. I think we're seeing a rotational top for the equity markets. I think that'll translate over into crypto. I think we'll eventually see Bitcoin rip back up. We'll see our blow off top. Right. We'll see things like SWI, which is one of those ones we keep bringing up. And I brought it up in Markets of the Morning. It's kind of the ones or one of the coins that gives a little bit of alpha in here. The question just is, are we going to be down here in a prolonged period? Right. We keep looking at it like there's just clear strength indicators, whether we look at the ones that we talked about Bitcoin in the beginning of this video, or you're looking in here on SWI. Things are waking up in the market. The momentum of the downside price action has obviously changed. The thing that has not changed, though, is just that we're still in a ranging context. And those can be frustrating and prolonged for everybody. And prolonged, as a YouTuber, they're frustrating. This is where you hit writer's block. This is where you hit those moments of like, how do I say something new without it being the same thing? And, your audience is just like beat up and tired. You're like, come on, do something. And, that's just where we're at. The big context is obviously the strength indicators are emerging. It still just looks like a normal range of the types of ranges that eventually go for breaks to the upside or go for breaks to the upside or go for breaks to the upside in here. We're just building this new range happening in here. We're just waiting for things to develop. And my best guess, just kind of excluding the Trump pump and dump that happened in here, is that we're probably somewhere along here. And so I just wanted to check in with you and say, hey, look, here's all the things that are positive out there. It's totally still just a ranging context happening in there. But at the same time, here's the bigger picture of everything that I'm looking at. So when I come onto the YouTube channel and I'm talking, you know what I'm looking at. You know what I'm thinking. There's clear evidence of strength returning. The thing is that bottoms are processes, tops are processes. Totally think the bottom's being worked out in there. Just the unknown is, how many days is it going to take? I think we'll eventually get it. That's why I provide all the examples whenever I have an opinion of something. I try to show you exactly the reason why, rather than just being like, price is going to go up for the sake of going up, or price is going to go down for the sake of going down, and then hedge my words in every single direction. If I have a thought, try to say, hey, this is my thought, and here's a supplemental information as to the reason why I think that way. But we're just stuck in a range. So hopefully something can develop in the coming days where we can be like, there's something profound happening today. But till then, it's just kind of sitting around twiddling our thumbs, waiting for something to happen. So I'll check in with you guys soon, and hopefully we have something good to talk about. The clear thing is the strength indicators starting to turn their way back up, but these are processes that take a moment to play out. So we'll check in on it soon. Otherwise, guys, I hope you have a great day. You guys could check out the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Comes with a 30-minute audio recording talking about the rotational top and all the things that have been going on recently. You can check out bcbacker.com. It's got over 40 videos and 11 hours of content teaching you how to set up your own charts and indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro. There's links in the descriptions of all of my videos to the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com and to bcbacker.com. Otherwise, have a wonderful day, and I'll check in with you soon. But all right. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.